Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the Newark and Sherwood series, a district of 84 civil parishes right in the centre of Nottinghamshire. Come with me as we delve into one of them. Welcome back to Newark and Sherwood, everybody. The sun hat is on now because it's starting to get a little bit warm. Even though there are some clouds in the sky, those blue patches are very prominent, aren't they? Which means it's going to be a nice day for walking around this place. And while we're walking around, we're going to be heading towards one of its pubs for some food. A very nice pub that I happen to know does some very good food, Nikki.
Excellent, excellent. 21 degrees at the moment, so it's a bit warm on my back. So I think a nice sit down, something cool in the pub will be very welcome.
And that pub you'll find in Farndon. This Newark and Sherwood video is sponsored by Past Days, a family history blog by June Terrington. You'll find a link in the description. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Welcome to the first of 4 villages with the name of Farndon in England. One's in Cheshire, 2 are in Northamptonshire, and this one is in Nottinghamshire. It's located on the Fosse Way, 2.5 miles southwest of Newark, on the banks of the River Trent. The A46 previously ran through the village until the development of the new bypass. The name Farndon means Fern Hill. Like East Stoke, just down the road, Farndon could have been the site of the Roman fort Ad Pontem, the place by the bridges. White's Directory of 1853 says Farndon at that time was a well-built village, and the Duke of Newcastle was lord of the manor, and he owned a small portion of the land. Today, Farndon can still boast that it's a well-built village, even though the population has increased fourfold. Many old cottages have been demolished to make room for the growth of modern housing. Industrially, there were several malt kilns, and there were both steam mills and windmills. Farming, malting, willow growing and basket making were the main sources of employment. A famous Farndon local was a roadman known as Pegleg. He kept the village clean and tidy despite having only one leg. He used his wooden leg as a setting stick to make holes for potato setting. Termed a garden village, Farndon is full of lovely trees. Let's see what else it's got. You can't trust kids with technology. I asked Hannah to hold my GoPro whilst I got ready and I got this abomination. I opted to leave it in. We start at Farndon St Peter's Primary School. It's in the distance over there. It replaced an old village school in 1960. More on that later. Our first major landmark is the marina, which you can access via a network of footpaths from the street the school is on. In the 1930s, sand and gravel was needed to build the aerodrome runways at RAF Silverstone and RAF Newton. Excavations on part of the riverbank revealed ample supplies. Today, those worked gravel pits have been transformed into a superb marina. The river was also widened in the process, and the marshy fields alongside it were drained. Though many of Farndon's fields have been used for housing, there are still many acres of riverbank left. The river here is simply beautiful, not something we often say about the Trent. In times past, it wasn't uncommon to see sand and gravel barges here. Now, there are houseboats. Now we have a little in-joke in our house about the River Trent, don't we, Nikki?
Yeah.
What do we always say you find in the River Trent?
I'm not saying I don't want to offend anyone.
Well, the point is, if you say what the joke is, then I can actually refute it.
Okay, so I was told, this is, you know, not my thing, but I was told with the Trent you normally find shopping trolleys in it.
Not here.
No, you find houseboats in it.
Absolutely, and they're much better. Absolutely gorgeous, this part of the world, isn't it?
Yeah.
Here there's a board which details some of the walks you can take in and around Farndon. Entitled the Parish Trail, a lot of this centres on the beautiful riverbank, and who can blame it? There used to be a ferry across the Trent from Farndon to Rollston. The earliest known reference to it was in 1583. This is the Farndon Ferry, formerly known as the Farndon Boathouse. The former boathouse is a trendy upmarket bar and bistro now. We don't normally frequent this kind of place, so this was a real treat for us. We called in for food. Check out this amazing seafood sharing platter. In short, this whole area of Farndon is what draws people to the village. It's by far and away the most popular spot for tourists, and the locals love it too. It's just fabulous. Here we've got the Riverside Pub. This has been known in the past as two other names, these being the Lazy Otter and the Britannia. It's a modern, clean and friendly gastropub. Alright, it feels like we've been here for a while, for a long time, because obviously we've been in there for food, and then we've just done an episode of the parish notice board down there, which you'll have seen a few weeks ago. So let's go and explore.
Back to it.
Yes, let's go and explore the rest of the village. Now the next thing to see is a nature reserve, and that's followed by a church, and to do both of those things we need to walk down the side of the riverside along this road right here. Next we've got a chapel. The Wesleyan Methodists built their chapel here in 1847. The Primitive Methodists had a chapel built here in 1881. This is the latter of the two, and it's now a house. From the chapel there's a footpath which will take us towards Church Street. Farndon is connected together pretty well with these. Some of them you wouldn't even know were footpaths. There's a lovely 3-storey house at the end of this one. Next we have a quick look at Farndon's Nature Reserve, one of the few remaining survivors of the working willow holts. Willow holts were once a feature of many a Trentside village. This site is especially important as it houses an internationally known collection of willows and hybrid species. Now we head down another footpath which passes the parish church of St Peter. This was built in Elizabethan times, and it's thought to be the third church built on this same site since Saxon times. It's amazing what Nikki spots and I don't. Look here in the churchyard. That apparently, according to Nikki, is a drinking trough.
It looks like one, I could be wrong. Mind you, it has got like a head and shoulders shape there, so who knows.
Well, it would make sense.
I mean, it could have had like a pump.
Possibly. Anyway, is the church open?
I don't know, I haven't got there yet.
Alright. Hannah's just putting a card on the notice board. I'll capture that while I'm at it. See you inside the church, Hannah, if it's open.
Same people in charge of this one is in charge of pretty much everyone we've seen today.
Ah, yeah, the same guy will be...
Woman.
Oh, woman, okay.
No, not
No,
open.
not open. Oh, that's a shame. Oh well. The church consists of a chancel, a nave with a clerestory, a south aisle with an arcade of 3 bays, and a square tower containing 4 bells. Portions of Saxon work can be found in its north wall. On to West End we pass this house, which is the old post office. Farndon's modern post office can be found within its local shop, a Londis store, which is further around our route. On Cross Lane we pass the back of another pub. That's the Rose and Crown, which features a stone floor bar area and has a real fire, according to the website What Pub. A left turn and we're at the parish notice board, and Hannah did the honours once again. I was kind of pleased this was the last village of the day because those cards were starting to run out. Buses next, and from this stop you can catch 3 different buses. These are the number 90, 90A and 354. 2 of these go to Newark, the other to Fernwood, just off the A1. So we've seen the back of the Rose and Crown, here's the front of the Rose and Crown. And I'm just going to cross the road to get a better view of this. It's open as well, always good to see a village pub still going. So many have closed down. There's a phone box there as well. which is a book exchange. That's where we're going next. Book exchanges are still a thing here in old red phone boxes. Check out the sign above the door here which reads Farndon Parish Council. Nikki thought that was a nice touch. On California Road we find Trent House. This is a retirement complex which was built in 1972 and it's run by Newark and Sherwood District Council. It's got 32 flats. We walked through the housing estate, but all those shots will come in today's rest of section. Our destination was the laundry shop I mentioned earlier on Marsh Lane, which features Farndon's post office. So the ladies have gone in the shop. I'm just outside waiting for them. This is a post office as well as a shop, and there's obviously a hair salon next door too. And yeah, when we're done here, we're going back the way we've just come along this road here, and there's like a little housing estate off to the left which I'll briefly have a look at, but mainly from here it's the cemetery and the park left to see, and then that'll be the main route done. Heading back to the car, we swung by Farndon Cemetery, which is off Marsh Lane close to the village hall. The cemetery has 4 Commonwealth war graves, 2 from World War I and 2 from World War II. We spent a few minutes in here because it was starting to get warm. It was nice to be out of the sun for a short while. The tree cover Farndon provides is handy in places. Next door is the police station and the village hall, the latter of which is officially known as the Farndon Memorial Hall. Inside there's a war memorial for the 30 men from Farndon who died in the World Wars. And that brings us to the playing field. Farndon does pretty well for itself with sports teams. Farndon United Football Club play here, as do Farndon Cricket Club. The first known reference to Farndon's cricket team is in 1853. They currently play in the South Notts Cricket League. This playing field also has a playground, which Hannah went to check out. So with this being a Saturday, there's a cricket match going on the playing field here. So all those cricket clubs we've seen in the past, we actually get to see one in action. Now of course I can't go much further than here because the boundary's here. I don't want to step onto the field of play, as it were. Is there anything more quintessentially English than a cricket match on a Saturday in the sunshine? Let's just hang on a minute and see if we can catch a ball or two. Just trying to work out which end the bowler's coming in from. Here he comes, here we are, we're going that way. So annoyingly, the very next ball, I'd walked away, the batsman absolutely hammered towards this boundary, and the fielder on the boundary made a cracking stop. I wish I'd caught it on camera because it was actually really good, but alas, I didn't catch it, never mind. Anyway, Hannah's come back out of the park and we're off to meet Nikki again now at the car, and our next job is to go towards a farm shop, and in doing so I'll have the camera on the dash to record the rest of Farndon as we drive, which means going that sort of direction over there, turning right and then right again onto the old A46 which runs along behind the cricket pitch as you look here towards the farm shop. This was not a short drive, so I'll use this time to tell you a few other things I found out about Farndon. Firstly, Farndon Fields. During site investigations for the A46 road improvements in the area to the east of the existing Fosse Road, a significant archaeological site was identified and later excavated. The site contained a flint scatter. That's a spread of waste flakes produced by the working of stone to produce sharp-edged tools. These dated back some 13,000 years. Usually such finds are limited to caves, and the nearest ones locally are Creswell Crags, some 20 miles away. It's thought the same people who used the site also frequented the caves at Creswell. Much interest was also taken in a 2-foot-long ancient sword, thought to be Saxon, which was discovered during an excavation under St Peter's Church in 1892. The sword is now preserved in the vestry. As for schools, the one we started at replaced an old one in the 1960s. The headmaster who oversaw the transition between the two sites was named Bernard Jackson. I would imagine a lot of older Farndon residents would have known him by his nickname, as generations of school children referred to him as Gaffer Jackson. Speaking of children, that's a handy transition into the tale of the little hero of Farndon. In August 1948, that title was bestowed on 12-year-old Ronnie Ward after he rescued a child from the river. Seeing a 4-year-old boy in deep water, he swam out to him and pulled him to the landing stage at the Farndon ferry, from where he was carried back to his mother. His parents knew nothing about the rescue until they heard the story from eyewitnesses, allegedly because their son was too modest to tell them. Not all heroes wear capes, eh? Our final destination on our tour of Farndon is Hardy's Business Park, which is where you'll find Hardy's Farm Shop, established almost 50 years ago. The Hardy family has been bringing the best in seasonal produce to the people of Farndon and the surrounding areas ever since. Hardy's is the perfect place to pick up all kinds of fresh produce. They also have a range of meats, artisan cheeses, fresh bread, and lots of other foods and drinks. It sounds like our kind of place. There's also an on-site cafe called the Corner House, which is open 7 days a week. You can bet that we went in to have a look. So obviously we couldn't film inside the farm shop, but we can at least show you what we bought from it. Here we are, Nikki. What do we got?
Okay, so amongst other things, we've got some cheese scones, because I love those. Look at these duck eggs.
Duck eggs.
Look at the size of them. Fabulous. Cannot resist.
I see some grapes there.
I love the fresh egg. Yes, some grapes.
Yeah.
And there's also some of this smoked Lincolnshire poacher
cheese. And it's so good. I've had it before, but not for a long time, so I'm going to enjoy that later.
The smell of that. And last but not least, some strawberry jam.
Yeah.
So, yeah, happy with that.
Yeah, we've got a good haul there. The TVI pounds have definitely been out. Should also mention too, that if you go upstairs in Hardy's Farm Shop, you'll find Jim's Emporium, which is like walking back in time. There's plenty of stuff in there that we haven't seen in years. Some of it obviously has come from house clearances or basically
crockery and cutlery, and then there's also pub memorabilia.
Yeah, all sorts of things.
Yeah, promotional items and stuff. Really good.
You name it, it's in there.
Yeah.
Well, from at least the past, what, at least
well,
30,
certainly
40
from
years.
my lifetime.
Yeah, if you were around in the 70s and 80s, a lot of it you'd be familiar with, I think.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
there you go. That, my friends, is Farndon, and we are done on this little trip into Newark.
Good, 'cause my feet hurt.
These last 5. I'm sorry, sweetheart, but you have enjoyed it, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I've enjoyed it.
It's
been nice to see something get up close and personal with the Trent. And see some houseboats and some people moving house.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
And spend some time here in Newark and Sherwood. It's the first time I've been to the district in this run, and I'd definitely come back for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And I'm sure there are plenty of people who live in Newark out there who will tell you that it's the best place in the world.
Definitely.
Yeah, well,
let's get home.
We'll argue about that with Lincolnshire, because me being a Lincolnshire boy. But yeah. Anyway, time for me to move on. This has been the parish of Farndon, and I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.